Okay, my name is Anna Likely, and I'll be presenting on the Farm and Ranch Center. So, is everybody online good to go? Like it? Okay, perfect. Okay, back in 2020, the then director of the Department of Ag, Director Gould, had spent her career at the ISDA really wishing that she could do more in certain areas of ag production and just not being able to. So the ISDA would get lots of phone calls, and there was never an entity, a government entity at the ISDA level that could help with issues that we'll talk about. So that's how the Farm and Ranch Center was created back in 2019, 2020. And so that's what I'll be talking about today. So I'm the program manager for the program, and I live in Blackfoot. So I'm working from the Blackfoot office and able to live on my family's ranch, which is just, like I had mentioned earlier, just provided a really good complexity to the perspective that I use to work with the Farm and Ranch Center. So the main reason that the Farm and Ranch Center was created has been a trend that David talked about that we know has been happening. Just that it's getting harder and harder to produce food, and the ISDA wanted to do something about it. So the main, that's not moving. Shoot. Where's the, right here. Okay. The main purpose of the Farm and Ranch Center is to help Idaho farmers and ranchers during times of growth, challenge, and opportunity. So there's new people who want to get involved in agriculture and they don't know how. Or there's individuals that are transitioning out of the farm and they don't know how to make that happen. So we created the Farm and Ranch Center to be a resource for all of those different questions and concerns. And the main focus areas of the center are new and beginning producers, succession and estate planning, veteran producers, and then we also have some mental health in agriculture in there as well. So my grandpa is still involved on the family ranch. And one of the things he likes to say to us often is, you've got to want it. That's the way he frames his inspiring us to, work the long hours and endure all of the things that production agriculture has to offer, in addition to the benefits. And we've started saying to him, Grandpa, that's actually not enough now. So back in the day, when a family came to Idaho to start farming, they were given 160 acres. The Homestead Act gave people the land. So my great grandpa and his brother had 320 acres of not great land, because all of the good valley ground had been taken by the time they got to southeast Idaho, but they had land. And so they lived off of it. They raised their own food and they had their own milk cow. Fast forward to my grandpa's time, he lived on the ranch, worked on the ranch. His wife never worked in town. They never had outside income, and they were able to pay for their groceries and grow the operation. Fast forward to my dad's generation, Gen X, he built the ranch and sustained his family with a teacher's salary. So their balance sheet grew substantially while they were in active, really progressive management of the ranch. And he did that with a teacher's salary, and they built a house, they paid for groceries. My mom never worked off the ranch. And now my husband and myself and my brother and his wife have moved back to Blackfoot on the family's operation. My brother has had a like $180,000 a year job with a fertilizer company, and a piece of land comes up for sale next door. And so my grandparents are excited, my parents are excited, let's get these kids their introduction into the ranch. And we called the landowners because we were thinking that they might want to sell to us because we're their neighbors. Long story short, it was way more than we could afford as the incoming generation. And this is with a, a fairly big nest egg for a young producer, not bad. And so we're really thinking about, okay, so the ways that we've grown in the past aren't working, and we're a multi-generational family. So this new and beginning farmer part of the Farm and Ranch Center, I'll be honest, is just so difficult to try to figure out how to provide like meaningful assistance, something that actually works. David talked about loans. That's another really big part of what we try to promote. We get a lot of phone calls of people who are interested in starting in agriculture production, but just don't know how and would like a grant to start farming. That's really that's the biggest phone call that I get, honestly. And as much as I can, I try not to just be the bearer of bad news, but just listen and try to provide some ideas or resources. And then that also goes into succession and estate planning. I think anybody in this room who knows production agriculture knows the complexities and heartbreak that are involved with the generational transition of land. And I think everybody who's connected to it is left with the question of how do we try to prevent this from happening? So that's another really big part of the Farm and Ranch Center. Help when something goes awry in succession planning, but I think preventing bad cases is kind of the part that we want to stay. We got a phone call probably when I first started working at the Farm and Ranch Center, when I was there in the beginning stages in 2020, and a potato farmer in this area called and said, my son says that he doesn't want to come back to the farm because it's too hard of work. And then he went and joined the Marines. And so what gives? He's like, you guys need to help me find a solution here. And I think it's a really good example, though, of the connection between growing food and serving your country. There is a connection to the land, to creating something, to being a part of something bigger than yourself. I like on the phone with Connie May, there's so much passion behind the way that someone who's been in military service talks about growing food. I am not a part of military service, but I can see the passion that's shared by everyone in this room for this same topic. There needs to be more done in Idaho for veteran farmers. Other states are doing a lot of great things. I think when David talks about the Idaho way, it is the more that I really learn about how to make change in Idaho, the more I'm realizing there is an Idaho way, and it's different than other states. It's different than, we won't go into details, but it's different. So I think that there's some real opportunity there. And then lastly, especially after the COVID pandemic, there was a lot of federal funding for farm stress. And so you saw a lot of these smaller regional nonprofits start up and specialists programs within extension and nonprofit agencies, or nonprofits and agencies focused on farm stress. And I would argue it's just getting worse. So back then, that was in 2020, we were using the data of farmers are 2 to 5 times more likely to commit suicide than people in other occupations. We know that producing food in a way that is harmonious with the land and an actual living wage is just getting more difficult. And I talked to a farmer just the other day, and he was talking about succession planning struggles with his grandson. And a lot of times I just spend time listening. And I said, how are you feeling about the current farm economy? And he said, honestly, I just feel like I'm being pinched, which I thought was such a good way to describe that. So we had a lot of learnings from 2020. Farmers don't want to talk about stress. They don't want to get in a room and have a workshop about farmer mental health, obviously. So the mental health part of the Farm and Ranch Center is a bit more sneaky in how we try to meet that goal of making sure that farmers are, doing well. So some of the resources that we have, so the biggest part of the Farm and Ranch Center is a resource website. So farm.idaho.gov is our website URL. And this is just the thing you see on the top left is just the above the fold of what you'd see at the website. So information about loans and financial assistance, information about succession planning, resources of what other states are doing. There's really, really great cash flow budget examples that come out of Iowa State. Granted, we're not Iowa, but we can utilize their resources and tailor them to what we're doing here. And there's an unbelievable amount of resources that are available. It's just finding them. So this website has the resources that we've kind of combed through that we like the most. We're helping put on a succession planning workshop over in southeastern Idaho in Rexburg. So that's a little bit what we do too, of bringing together stakeholders. There's a group that wants to put together a workshop, and so we help find presenters and promote to our network in the area. So that is another example. And then we also have a newsletter that goes out to just a select group of stakeholders. So right now, select group is like 350 emails, which feels pretty substantial. I think the more that we can get resources into the hands of people who need them, the better, rather than just trying to compete with all of the noise that exists in our world right now. So another piece of resource that we have created that I really feel passionately about is our succession planning course. So if there's a farmer that is thinking about transitioning the operation to their kids or to a predecessor, outside the family, the resources that we provide from the Farm and Ranch Center are like a website of PDF documents, and so it is hard to find what you need and actually use it. This succession planning course goes through like the actual experience of trying to transition a farm or ranch and connects with the resources that help during that stage. So you go to the beginning of the course and it's self-led, self-directed, it's on the website. And it talks about, getting the family ready to start a conversation. And then there's a resource that connects exactly to that topic area. So it's self-directed in a way that I think people can use from their own homes. This is a tough topic and people don't want to go talk about it in front of a bunch of other farmers. We also have put together a packet with extension focused on some of these topic areas. Succession planning is so complex and diverse, and there's a lot I could go on and on and on about, but we can save that for another time. As we look into the future, I think that for Idaho, we need modern solutions to some of the problems that we're facing. And I think, it's been said previously, we're maybe 10 years behind at a planning and zoning level. We're probably 10 years behind in other ways too. It's a benefit of Idaho, but I think it has its drawbacks when we look to really focusing in on how we can save our farms and ranches from not working, keeping working lands in working hands type of a mission. So some things that we're exploring is apprenticeships and directly how that relates to veterans and being able to utilize some of the veteran benefits to complete an apprenticeship in production agriculture. That doesn't exist currently. The Department of Labor does have a potato operator program that they do with Simplot to provide apprenticeships. But I think, even if it's 3 veterans a year or 2 veterans a year, there's a difference that we can make there. So that's in the early stages. I think a lot of times too, Connie and I have talked about this, you can try to start something, and it depends on who's at specific jobs within specific agencies at specific times. And who's at, CWI or U of I in the workforce development programs. So I think apprenticeships might be at a time that we can try to make something happen. I will say I came into this job back in 2020 thinking, like, why haven't we tried some of these things in Idaho? Why isn't this being done? And a lot of the answers were, we have tried those things. Lots of people have tried lots of things. And so it just depends on timing and, resources as to whether something can get pulled off. The other thing is the Idaho Farm Link program. So linking landowners with land seekers across the nation, it's very touch and go on whether these programs are successful. A lot of times there's 4 times more land seekers than landowners. And it's something that I think we need to apply 2025 solutions to, because it's an age-old problem and there might be a new way that we can approach that issue. I think that is all that I had. Yeah, thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions.